Hi there, my name is Henry Tenby. In this video, I'm going to be presenting the highlights of the 2025 Amsterdam Aviation Fair. Of course, many of the photos are model focused, as I'm a hardcore model collector, but I'm hoping you're going to find this very interesting. These photos are from the table of my good friend, Vito van Dronen from Rotterdam. He's also interested in models. He brought this beautiful KLM DC-8 1/100 scale by Verkuyl, as well as other models. The lovely F-27 by Verkuyl in the Navy Maritime Demo is also a metal model. This Cessna training aircraft is painted up in the colors of the Rotterdam-based flight training school, and actually Vito is in negotiations to purchase this company with investors, and we are wishing him all the very best of luck in his business pursuit. Here's a very nice overall view of the models that Vito brought to the show, some die casts as well. You can see here the little F-28 in the background. I had my eye on that model. It's a Verkuyl metal 1/100 scale piece, and this is quite a very impressive metal 1/72 four-engine Douglas, probably a DC-6 in KLM markings. It's been refinished, but it's quite a unique metal model, one of which I don't recall ever seeing before. And here's a close-up of that Verkuyl 1/100 scale F-28, which I really liked. It's a beautiful little piece. Doing deals and meeting new friends, that's what this show is all about. And here is Vito and me doing our exchange. Vito got one of my Lodestars to Jets books, and I ended up with that nice little F-28 model. For KLM ephemera lovers, the show had plenty of material, some of which is sampled here. And this Antonov 124 model was made in the Ukraine, and a beautiful little model. I would have possibly pursued it myself. I just didn't like the saggy starboard side wing. And here's the very impressive model table display. Models all offered for sale by show organizer Patrick van Rooyen. Some really great stuff. There's something to satisfy every taste from Patrick's table. This Lufthansa 1/72 Packman was also for sale on Patrick's table. I took a picture especially for a friend of mine. These wonderful models were presented for sale by a very famous aircraft display model collector from France. What a beautiful, massive Concorde. And a lot of these models here were made by Aerografideco, also really beautiful. I think most of these models were in the 200 to 250 range. This is my table. I brought 10 of my new books from Lodestars to Jets. I sold all 10 copies. I also brought some very nice JetFlix swag, including our very unique postcards. Only 50 of each were ever produced. And I also brought some of our new Airline baggage tags with the JetFlix branding as well. And I also brought a number of Airline slides for exchange and trade, which I'll tell you about in just a second. This French Navy F-27 by Verkuyl was also sitting on my table, and I purchased this model. This was one of my prized acquisitions from the show. I really love this scheme, and I love the model. I'm really impressed by these vintage Airline flags that were used to promote airline services in travel agencies, mostly back in the 50s and 60s. And this nice collection was on offer. Most of these flags were offered in the 60 to 80 euro range. Here's another view of the table with the models brought by the famous French collector. Now move to the table of the famous Dutch collector, ephemera collector, and KLM collector, Richard. And this is his beautiful Douglas DC-4 in wood, 1/50th scale, made by the famous Dutch model maker from the 1950s, Henk Moderman. Henk Moderman made many models for airlines, including KLM, of course, in the 1950s. It's interesting how his last name, Moderman, sounds like model man. Here's another view of the DC-4. You can see that the price is 1,000 euros, and considering the model is now 70 years old in wonderful condition, I think it's quite a fair price. We also have another Moderman model, a KLM DC-3, also dating probably from the late 40s or early 1950s. And I believe this model is also priced circa 1,000 euros. And these models are also Richards. They're, I guess, World War II, mostly German models, assembled models and display models. And this model is absolutely fantastic. I guess I'm not sure of the scale. You can see the dimensions. It is a sheet metal Constellation on landing gear in KLM markings. We don't know who the maker is. It's quite a big, heavy model. It definitely dates from the time the airplanes went into service, so early 50s with KLM, and it is unique. So for the price, I think it's a very, very worthwhile investment for the serious model collector. And here we have the famous British book publisher and personality Charlie Kennedy holding court at his table with an audience of very engaged customers and fans. And here I am presenting a wonderful book that was presented to me by its author and producer Gökhan Sarıgül. This book is all about Istanbul Airport, photographic history going back to the 1930s, 40s, and 50s to present day. What a beautiful book, illustrated with hundreds of black and white and color images, many of which were taken by Gökhan Sarıgül himself. Highly recommended. Thank you so much, Gökhan, for sharing this with me. Famous French airline slide collector Michel Saint-Félix had a very successful day in the trade of aircraft slides at the convention. And seated very nicely in the background is the famous Dutch aircraft slide collector Nico Ruzen. Here's another view of the lovely models from France. I had my eye on that South African Airways 1/44th scale Boeing 747 model. Maybe I'll buy it next year, who knows? And as we can see, it's always nice to have young collectors joining the hobby. The passion, of course, is ignited by having such a wonderful convention, easily accessible. And here I am with the very famous and very acclaimed and renowned Dutch aircraft display model maker, Bob Dross. It was an honor and a highlight for me to meet with Bob at the show. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. Bob Dross and his company, Bel Air Models, they're absolutely gorgeous Perspex solid models that are incredibly accurate. And I encourage you to check out Bob's work on his Bel Air Models website. Just absolutely stunning. And as I say, meeting with Bob and talking about models, it was, for me, one of the highlights of the show. It was good to see Bob, and I look forward to seeing him again soon. For those seeking an entry-level model to get into the hobby, this is a nice little deal, 60 euros for an original 1980s A320 without the winglets. So yeah, this model would be pretty much coming up on 40 years old, I think. And here I am with Ton Jochems, famous Dutch aviation photographer, historian, and we had a table pretty much right beside each other, so we had a good opportunity to get caught up and talk about travel and aviation and airlines. This year's show attracted record attendance. We had over 1,600 people attend the show, and as you can see from these pictures, it was very busy, very exciting, and lots of people buying, selling, wheeling, and dealing. It was just very, very nice to have such a wonderful opportunity to have this show.
More than 1,500 visitors. Against last year we had 1,217, and this year we had more than 1,500 visitors. And they all look very happy, I can tell you, and that's your doing. So applaud for yourself also.
If you're looking for an airline service trolley, either perhaps an older one that maybe is an airline that you have an association with, or perhaps you're looking for a new trolley that's been refinished to your own custom specifications, Rick de Boer can definitely help you out. His company is Hello Tiger. They import and resell and market airline service trolleys. You can have your own airline, vintage, present, current, fictitious, whatever you like, your own artwork can be placed onto the trolley. And it was very nice to see their products at the show. And here is their contact information if you'd like to get in touch with them. And here's the wonderful table and slide display of Peter van Leeuwen from Rotterdam. He brought a ton of slides as well as some very nice aircraft display models. I understand that the models were sold. Peter and I organized the first ever Amsterdam Airline Slide Convention, which was held on the Saturday before the Aviation Fair. And we're planning to hold a bigger, better slide convention next year as well. These next series of photos show the models brought by Pascal van de Waal, who's living in France. Pascal always attends these Amsterdam shows as well as the Frankfurt shows, if my memory serves correct. Some of his highlight models included the U.S. Air Force Hercules by Verkyle, as well as an Aeroflot Tu-134 model. Here's a close-up photo of the Aeroflot Tupolev. I do believe this model has been sold. These two models have attended the last few shows. It's a Verkyle metal F-27 without a stand, and there's a Dornier Tu-28 model. I think they're quite nice models, actually. This model in metal was made by Scharschmidt of Berlin, West Berlin, so it's quite an old model. It's a proposal model of a type that I actually don't remember, but the model did sell, and it was priced at 400 euros, so I guess it is quite a rare item. Pascal always brings a nice selection of Swiss ID models made in metal and resin, and this year was no exception. They're really quite neat, and they were generally priced between 80 and 100 euros. This is the F100 model, quite nice shape, and here we have an F101 Voodoo. You can see it was priced at 100 euros. This is a Buccaneer, a bit rough, needs to be repainted, but nice. And here's the C160 Transall ID model. As you can see from the underside, it was priced at 100 euros. And here's another entry-level model. It's a Freebird of Turkey A320 in 1/100 scale, plastic, but it is a real McCoy model made for the airline, as you can see by the airline logoed plaque on the base. So yeah, quite a nice piece for the price. And this seller brought an eclectic mix of models and toys for, I would say, the specialist collector of such models. And here I am with U.S. model collector Dan Asher. This was my prized acquisition of the show. I'd like to thank Dan for selling me this lovely Verkyle. I believe it's 1/150th scale. It's a British Airways L1011 in metal. I've got the Gulfair version of this model, and I was really happy to find this British Airways version of the model, which Dan brought to the show, and I ended up buying from him. So yeah, this was my prize model acquisition, and I'm super happy with it. Thank you so much, Dan. I'd also like to point out that Dan does first-class restorations of professional aircraft models. The big models, he doesn't work with the small models, but the large metal models and large cutaway models. If you need to have such models professionally restored, Dan can help you out with that. The son of the famous French aircraft display model maker Bourbon of the 1960s showed up, and he had a table with some old, well, maybe old new stock. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but they are old Bourbon models, and they were quite reasonably priced. He didn't have too many, but this is a picture of some of the models that were brought to the show. And here are photos from yet another collector whose name I do not know, who brought a nice selection of models to the show, Air Bahama Stretch DC-8. We've got one of these French caravels that were produced in quite large numbers, but often not in great shape. And mixture of models, French and otherwise, quite nice stuff. The prices were generally quite reasonable on these particular tables, but again, I'm sorry, I do not know the name of the seller. We did have this very nice vintage aluminum casting of an IL-14, maybe it's a 10, I'm not sure, but it is very nice. It's vintage, Soviet era. And he also had this Westway models plastic Viscount in 1/72nd scale for 275 euros. And the IL-14 metal model was also priced at 275 euros. He also had this 1/72nd scale space models, Hawker Siddeley 748, which I actually purchased. It was quite reasonably priced, and I will completely refinish the model. And last but certainly not least, we have the table of the famous Dutch model collector Sergio. He had this nice Tupolev 154, I think it's 1/50th scale. Obviously, it's seen some better days, but it's a very rare piece. The tail has had some repairs done, but I know the model did sell. And yeah, it's always nice to see Sergio at these shows. You might be asking, how did I do at the show? Well, here's the photo. That is Peter Van Leeuwen with a trolley and all my acquisitions from the show. So Peter's going to be taking that, putting it in storage, and eventually sending it over to me in Canada. But I was very, very happy with the proceedings. Amsterdam Aviation Fair 2025 has come to a close, and it's been an absolutely fantastic time that I've had over here. Without a doubt, this is the biggest and best airline and aviation collectible show on the planet. And yesterday they had 1,600 people come through the gate. It was a super, super busy show, and I'm looking forward to the 2026 show already. So that's what I can say. It's been a fantastic fair. I want to thank the entire organizing committee of the Amsterdam Aviation Fair for all of their help. And of course, special thanks to lead organizer Patrick for setting it all up with his team. They did an amazing, amazing job. So job well done. Everybody was extremely happy with the day. So big thank you to everybody. Thanks for showing up, and thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing everybody next year at the 2026 Amsterdam Aviation Fair. Mark your calendars. The 2026 Amsterdam Aviation Collectors Fair will take place on Sunday, February the 22nd of 2026. We hope to see you there. Hi there, my name is Henry Tenby. Myself and Rotterdam-based Peter Van Leeuwen organized the 2025 Amsterdam Aviation Slide Convention. It was held the day before the big Amsterdam Aviation Fair at the Van der Valk Hotel. And we had 15 hardcore slide collectors attend the event. It was a lot of fun. We traded a lot of slides. We exchanged slides between 10 in the morning and 5 o'clock. And I wish it went on for longer. We are looking forward to doing another event like this next year. Hopefully it will be bigger. I had the opportunity to meet Florian, who purchased one of my books. And we also had a lunch that was included in this event. The hotel, the Ibis Styles, provided us with a nice lunch, croquette, which I really enjoyed. Not something you usually find at a slide convention. But as I say, we're certainly hoping that next year we will organize a bigger and better slide convention to take place before the big fair. If you'd like to be on our mail list to learn more about the 2026 Amsterdam Aviation Slide Convention, just send us an email and we'll keep you updated. Hi there, my name is Henry Tenby, and I'd like to tell you about my brand new book. It's called From Lodestars to Jets, and it's the most image-heavy, comprehensive, it's the most extensive history on Air Canada, Trans-Canada Airlines that has ever been published in the annals of aviation history. The book is absolutely loaded with images that many of which have never been seen before. Let's have a look at the pages, and then you can decide if this book deserves a spot on your bookshelf. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of the book. Isn't that gorgeous? It is printed on 105 GSM paper, so it's super high quality paper. It is absolutely loaded with images. As I say, there are approximately 600 images, just under 300 pages. Many of these images have never been seen before. And the stories that are within these pages, many of them have long been forgotten, and it is information that is absolutely fascinating relating to engineering and fleet planning and fleet development issues at Trans-Canada Airlines. Look at that Viscount wing structure design, feathering system. We've got a section on the Bristol Freighter, some face changes around TCA engineering, and then sections on the Connie. Models make moolah, of course, for you aircraft model fans. Whole sections on the Connie, North Star. There we go, engineering department, 1950. Fabulous shot taken at, where's this, Cartierville. Absolutely gorgeous. And this will take you back to the good old days of Trans-Canada Airlines. As I say, I believe this is the most comprehensive history on Trans-Canada, Avro jetliner, that's right. Trans-Canada Airlines is instrumental in the development of this aircraft. Of course, up to the jet age, the introduction of service to the DC-8s, and other airplanes that were considered by TCA at the time. This is not the same old Air Canada history that we've seen many times over the decades. This is all brand new information, brand new stories. I've posted a link in the upper right-hand corner of this video that'll take you to the book information and order page. Also, I should point out that time is of the essence. Limited production on these books. Once they're sold out, they're probably sold out forever. And I hope you will enjoy the book as much as I enjoyed putting it together. Thank you very much.